A very good morning. Just past 10 by the clock. We are back again with another edition of News on the Hour. 60 minutes of power-packed bulletin where we cut all the noise, bring you news as it happens on ground zero. Lots to look forward to from the winter session of Parliament. We've got that new variant of COVID that's creating havoc not only in the entire Europe but also Africa and Latin America now getting affected. Lots also in the field of business. Good GDP numbers clearly indicating a robust growth and clearly reflecting on the Sensex, on the stock markets there, with the stock markets taking in the green, taking a shot towards the north, especially when it comes to good numbers there in Sensex as well as Nifty. Also in the Junior World Cup, Indian hockey team, they're taking on Belgium. Can they continue that winning run is what we are going to look forward to, especially in the next 1 hour. But let's get started. I am Anil Thomas with the top stories at the top of this hour. New guidelines for international travelers come into force from midnight. RT-PCR test on arrival mandatory for travelers from high-risk nations. Third day of winter session of Parliament in Lok Sabha is expected to see smooth business being transacted. Discussion on Corona likely to be taken up in the lower house. India's GDP growth at 8.4% in Q2, marking fourth consecutive quarter of expansion. Chief Economic Advisor says government's balanced demand and supply side measures helped keep inflation within range. Met Department predicts heavy rains in Mumbai and parts of coastal Gujarat today. Cyclonic storm likely in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh in the next 12 hours as a low pressure area over the Andaman Sea likely to intensify into a cyclonic storm. In international news, 3 students killed and 8 others injured, including a teacher in a high school shooting in the US state of Michigan. And in hockey, defending champions India take on Belgium today in the quarterfinals of the ongoing Junior Hockey World Cup. The winners will play the winners of the Germany versus Spain outing in the semis. Well, those were the top stories at the top of this hour. Now for the stories in detail, starting first up with the new variant of COVID that's causing havoc world over, and the Union Health and Family Welfare Ministry clearly indicating and issuing fresh guidelines for international travelers and arrivals at the airport. The fresh guidelines have come into place from today. These guidelines are as follows. Those travelers planning to travel should submit self-declaration form on the online Air Suvidha portal before the scheduled travel, upload a negative COVID-19 RT-PCR report. This should be conducted within 72 hours prior to undertaking the journey. Each passenger shall also submit a declaration with respect to authenticity of the report. Before boarding, passengers originating or transiting from at-risk countries shall be informed by the airlines that they will have to undergo post-arrival testing, quarantine if tested negative, stringent isolation protocols if tested positive. Do's and don'ts shall be provided along with the ticket to the travelers. Airlines to allow boarding by only those passengers who have filled a self-declaration form. At the time of boarding the flight, only asymptomatic travelers will be allowed to board. All passengers shall be advised to download the Arogya Setu app. While in-flight announcement about COVID-19, including precautionary measures to be followed, COVID-appropriate behavior to be followed at all times. Well, Bangladesh has been removed from the list of at-risk countries for the latest COVID-19 variant, Omicron, arriving in India. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, in its updated list on Tuesday, removed the name of Bangladesh from the list of countries from where arriving passengers will be required to undergo additional testing and reporting requirements. The latest list include countries in Europe, including United Kingdom, South Africa, Brazil, Botswana, China, Mauritius, New Zealand, Zimbabwe, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Israel. Well, travelers from the above-mentioned countries need to submission of sample for post-arrival COVID-19 test at the point of arrival, which is going to be self-paid. Such travelers will be required to wait for their test results at the arrival airport before leaving or taking a connective flight. If tested negative, they will have to follow home quarantine for 7 days, retest on the 8th day of arrival in India, and if negative, further self-monitor of their health for the next 7 days. However, if such travelers are tested positive, their samples should be sent for genome testing at the INSA COG laboratory network. They shall be managed at separate isolation facility and treated as per the laid down standard protocols, including contact tracing. The contacts of such positive cases should be kept under institutional quarantine or at home quarantine, monitored strictly by the concerned state government as per the laid down protocol. Well, Maharashtra government has issued revised guidelines for travelers on international flights as well as domestic passengers in view of the risks posed by the new coronavirus variant, Omicron. As per the guidelines, all international passengers have to furnish details of countries they have traveled in the last 15 days. Domestic passengers must carry an RT-PCR negative report. All passengers from at-risk countries as declared by the central government will have to undergo the mandatory 7-day institutional quarantine. RT-PCR tests will be carried out on day 2, 4, 7, and in case all tests are negative, the passenger will have to undergo further mandatory 7-day home quarantine. Passengers from other countries will also undergo RT-PCR test and if found negative, will have to undergo 14 days home quarantine. In case of domestic travelers, all must carry an RT-PCR negative report of a test conducted within 48 hours of arrival. Well, an update now on the COVID situation as well as the vaccination status across the country. 124 crore 10 lakh vaccine doses have been administered so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. India's active caseload is less than a lakh after 547 days and it currently stands at 99,023 active cases. Active cases account for less than 1% of the total cases, currently at 0.29% and the lowest since March 2020. The recovery rate currently at 98.36% and this is the highest since March 2020. 10,207 recoveries in the last 24 hours increases the total of recoveries to 3 crore 40 lakh 28,506. 8,954 new cases in the last 24 hours being detected and the daily positivity rate of 0.81% is less than 2% for the last 58 days. A weekly positivity rate at 0.84%, less than 1% for the last 17 days. 64 crore 24 lakh tests of COVID-19 being conducted in India so far. More than 137 crore vaccine doses provided to states and union territories. More than 24 crore 16 lakh balance or unutilized vaccine doses still available with states and union territories. Well, on the third day of the winter session of Parliament in the Lok Sabha today, smooth business is expected to be transacted. Discussion on Corona likely to be taken up. Union Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandaviya will present the Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Bill 2020 in the House for consideration and passing. Apart from this, matters under Rule 377 will be taken up. While in the Rajya Sabha, Union Jal Shakti Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat will present the Dam Safety Bill 2019 for consideration and passing. The bill has already been passed by Lok Sabha. Well, two terrorists of Jaish-e-Mohammed have been killed in a gunfight at Kushbayar area of South Kashmir's Pulwama district. The forces had laid siege around Kushbayar during the pre-dawn hours after having specific information about the presence of some terrorists. As a joint team of forces moved towards the suspected spot, the hiding terrorists started firing on the forces, which was retaliated, triggering off an encounter. Well, now another positive factor that comes in. Indian economy grew at 8.4% in the second quarter of 2021-22, according to the official data that's released by the National Statistical Office. The GDP had contracted by 7.4% in the corresponding July to September quarter of 2020-2021. In the last quarter, April to June, the economy saw a record growth of 20.1% compared with the corresponding period last year. The quarter 2 growth rate above 8% has propelled India as the world's fastest growing major economy. Here's more in this report.
The gross domestic product GDP growth for the second quarter of the current fiscal, that is July to September period, at 8.4% marks the fourth consecutive quarter of expansion. The second quarter GDP growth is led by improvement in private consumption and investment. According to the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, GDP at constant 2011-12 prices in quarter 2 2021-22 is estimated at 35.73 lakh crore rupees as against 32.97 lakh crore rupees in quarter 2 of 2020-21, showing a growth of 8.4% as compared to 7.4% contraction in quarter 2 2020-21.
India is likely to have double-digit growth, in this year. The overall growth for the first half has been 13.7%. So even a little more than 6% growth in the subsequent quarters should be able to deliver double-digit growth for this year. And we are projecting 6.5 to 7% next year, and thereafter 7% plus over different scenarios. I think the impact of seminal second-generation reforms will unfold in terms of both investment and in productivity going forward.
The Chief Economic Advisor further said that the continued government spending, along with benign interest rates, have aided the post-pandemic recovery amid fears of inflation due to world supply bottlenecks.
Corporate income and profit are above the pre-pandemic level. It is important here to not get subjected to the rhetoric that the formal sector is not important for job creation. As we have clearly seen, job creation in the formal sector is very important because those are the ones that provide high quality jobs.
Manufacturing sector grew 5.5% in the second quarter, while construction grew 7.5%. The agriculture sector continued to grow at 4.5% in the quarter under review, while mining and quarrying grew at 15.4%. Services that include hotels, transport and communication and broadcasting segment clocked a growth of 8.2% in the July to September period. Private final consumption expenditure increased to 19.48 lakh crore rupees in the July to September quarter, up from 17.83 lakh crore rupees in the first quarter. Private consumption, a major contributor to the economy and as measured by private final consumption expenditure, rose 8.6% during the second quarter, and gross fixed capital formation, which is a measure of the level of investment in the economy, jumped to 11% during the quarter under review. All this shows that Indian economy has gained momentum during the July-September period, inching gradually back to normalcy. This is because coronavirus-related disruptions eased significantly, and a faster pace of vaccinations and a drop in cases led to a pickup in the economic activity during the quarter. In comparison, China has recorded a GDP growth of 4.9% in the July to September period of 2021. All in all, Tuesday's data reaffirms the view that India is one of the fastest growing major economies of the world. DD India.
Well, in order to boost the digital revolution in the country, the government has organized Azadi Ka Digital Mahotsav program from 29th of November to the 5th of December. In the series, 20 top projects of 27 selected students from 14 states are now on display in the national capital. Let's see more in this report.
Meet Aditi Goswami and Oli, the young and budding innovators who have proven their artificial intelligence skills through sustainable AI-led innovations. They are part of a group of students from government schools across pan-India who are showcasing their top artificial intelligence-based projects in New Delhi under the Azadi Ka Digital Mahotsav program. The projects were made under Responsible AI for Youth Challenge. Let's hear from the young students what they have to say about their artificial intelligence-based projects.
ये एक कॉम्बिनेशन है आयुर्वेदा और टेक्नोलॉजी का। मुझे ये लगा कि आजकल जो लोग हैं वो माइनर हेल्थ इश्यूज़ को निगलेक्ट कर देते हैं, इग्नोर कर देते हैं। तो मैंने एक मॉडल बनाया हुआ है जो एक जैसे हम लोग इनपुट उसमें देंगे, उसमें हाइट वेट ऐसे करके वो पूछेगा। तो जैसे ही हम उसे चेक करेंगे तो वो हमें क्या हमारी दिक्कत है और उसकी ट्रीटमेंट देगा, आयुर्वेदिक ट्रीटमेंट देगा।
तो मैंने एक आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की मदद से इसका एक आइडियल सोल्यूशन बनाया है जो कि एक मेडिकल चैटबॉट है। बेसिकली ये एनएलपी टेक्नोलॉजी पर बेस्ड है और एनएलपी का फुल फॉर्म होता है नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग, जो कि मशीन या चैटबॉट्स को ऐसी एबिलिटी प्रोवाइड करता है जिससे वो ह्यूमन लैंग्वेज में स्पोकन वर्ड्स या टेक्स्ट को समझ सकते हैं और इंटरप्रेट कर सकते हैं।
On this occasion, Secretary in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, Ajay Sahani, lauded the spirit and hard work of the young and budding innovators. He also said that projects of 27 selected students from across the country have been displayed.
बेहतरीन काम किया आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को इस्तेमाल करने में, उनके मॉडल्स बनाने में। आज उनको यहाँ पर शोकेस किया जा रहा है और ये यंगस्टर्स हैं, अरुणाचल प्रदेश से भी हैं और भी राज्यों से आए हैं। और देखकर अचंभा होता है कि किस तरह से स्टूडेंट्स ने आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का इस्तेमाल करना सीखा है और उसको किस-किस हद तक लेकर जा रहे हैं।
No doubt, organizing such digital initiative for young students will empower the youth in an inclusive manner, but also it will help in overall development of the nation. Programs such as Responsible AI for Youth will develop scientific temperament among the young generation. Urmilesh Bhatt's report for DD India.
Well, the weather office meanwhile has forecast heavy rain in northern Gujarat and north and northwest Maharashtra. These include districts like Palghar, Thane and Mumbai that could be the worst hit according to the forecast. A cyclonic storm may also hit Andhra Pradesh and Odisha coast on Saturday morning. A low pressure area over the Andaman Sea may develop in the next 12 hours and intensify into a cyclonic storm over the central Bay of Bengal. A low pressure area is likely to form over the east central Arabian Sea of the Maharashtra coast during the next 24 hours. The IMD forecast heavy to very heavy rainfall and extremely heavy falls at isolated places over coastal Odisha and heavy to very heavy rainfall at isolated places over adjoining interior districts of Odisha, coastal districts of West Bengal and north coastal Andhra Pradesh. Well, there has been a slight improvement in the air quality observed in the national capital in Delhi this morning. The air quality index, that's the AQI, recorded this morning was at 316, which still falls in the very poor category. Earlier on Tuesday, also the air quality in Delhi remained in the very poor category. According to the data of the Central Pollution Control Board or the CPCB, Delhi's air quality was the worst this year in November in the last 7 years, and the national capital witnessed severe pollution for 11 days and the air quality was not good for a single day. The 30-day average for the capital's air quality index was 376, and according to the CPCB, this index was 328 in 20, 312 in 2019, 335 in 2018, 361 in 2017, 374 in 2016 and 358 in 2015. Well, moving on, Thoothukudi district authorities have issued a flood warning to people living along the banks of the Tamirabani River. There was sudden inflow of water of nearly 50,000 cusecs from other dam. The Mordana and the Rajatopu reservoirs in Vellore district too have touched full levels and surplus water is being discharged. Although no loss of life was reported over the past couple of days, over 500 cattle were killed and more than 2,000 huts damaged in the rains. In Chennai, hardships continued for residents in localities such as Ashok Nagar, Kodambakkam, Perumbakkam and Semecheri as they continue to be underwater. According to the Greater Chennai Corporation, that's GCC, of the 561 waterlogged locations in the metro, water has been rained out in 227 and work is on to bail out water from the remaining areas, for which more than 750 heavy-duty pumps have been deployed. The Regional Met Office says that from October 1st up to November 30th, the northeast monsoon has brought 82% above average rainfall for Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, while Chennai received an excess of 83% rainfall. Border Security Force or BSF is celebrating its 57th Raising Day today. The event is observed on December 1st. The paramilitary force was raised on December 1st, 1965, and it's a paramilitary force charged with guarding India's land border during peacetime and preventing transnational crime. Well, moving on, today is World AIDS Day. The day, as the name suggests, is to show support for people living with HIV and the ones who have lost their lives due to AIDS. The theme of World AIDS Day 2021 is to end inequalities, end AIDS. With a special focus on reaching people left behind, WHO and its partners are highlighting the growing inequalities to access to essential HIV service. The day was first marked in 1988, when it was also the first ever International Day for Global Health. Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome or AIDS is a chronic disease that is caused by the human immunodeficiency virus or HIV, and the immune system of the person who's suffering from the disease gets damaged and also reduces the disease fighting ability of the body in AIDS. Union Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia has tweeted on World AIDS Day. He said, and I quote, "On World AIDS Day, let us all pledge to work towards ensuring that people infected with and affected by HIV/AIDS lead a normal life sans discrimination and social stigma." While High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, Vikram Doraiswamy, called on Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in Dhaka on Tuesday, the High Commissioner appraised the Bangladesh Prime Minister about the forthcoming visit of President Ramnath Kovind to Bangladesh to join the Victory Day celebration marking the birth centenary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and Golden Jubilee of Independence, reports the official news agency. High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy said this is a special year and its significance too is reflected in the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Bangladesh earlier this year and President Ramnath Kovind will also visit the country in the same year. He said officials of both the countries are finalizing the visit of President Ramnath Kovind. He handed over a rare photograph of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman taken in 1972 when he is seen taking a security personnel to have his home for having lunch with him. The High Commissioner also handed over a pen drive with audios, videos and newspaper clippings of historic importance. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina stressed the need for boosting connectivity and freeing the two countries to enhance bilateral trade and commerce. She said that relations between Bangladesh and India have reached a new high and significant progress has been made in trade, business and tourism sectors between the two countries. Renowned scholar and national professor of Bangladesh, Professor Rafiqul Islam, passed away in Dhaka on Tuesday evening. He was 87. Professor Rafiqul Islam was one of the greatest scholars on the national poet of Bangladesh, Qazi Nazrul Islam. He was honored with the Swadhinta Padak and the Ekushe Padak, which is the highest civilian award of Bangladesh. He was a recipient of the Bangla Academy Literary Award and had written close to 30 books. Professor Rafiqul Islam was currently the president of the Bangla Academy. Expressing profound shock at the passing away of Professor Islam, Prime Minister of Bangladesh Sheikh Hasina said that he will remain alive as a bright luminary in the field of Bangla literature and research. She said his literary work will always inspire the Bengali nation in the spirit of liberation, war and patriotism. Well, time now for us to slip into a short breather here. On the other side, we'll take a look at all the global stories, business stories, and also stories from the field of sports. Stay tuned with News on the Hour and with DD India.
With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.
Mask up, India!
Put your mask on and cover your nose and be safe.
Mask Up India.
Welcome back to News on the Hour. Time now to take a look at stories and updates with regards to COVID-19 and the fight world over. Let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world. COVID-19 cases swiftly rising across the world. The number of cases of the virus now crossing 26 crores 30 lakhs. Total recoveries 23 crores 75 lakhs. Total deaths now 52 lakh 32,000. And the United States continues to remain the worst affected country by the pandemic, both right from the beginning to the present day, with the Delta variant causing havoc in the United States of America. As we speak, over 4 crore 94 lakh cases of COVID-19, with the death toll now over 8 lakh. While COVID-19 cases meanwhile mushroom across the European countries, again with the UK being the hardest hit in the continent. The UK has more than 1 crore 2 lakh cases of COVID-19, followed by France, where the cases have risen about 76 lakh 75,000. Germany also has registered a spike in the number of cases, with the total tally standing about 58 lakh 81,000. Italy trailed behind it, where over 50 lakh 28,000 COVID-19 cases have been registered. Well, US infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci has said that it is difficult to ascertain whether the COVID-19 Omicron variant will lead to severe disease, and said the preliminary information from South Africa indicated it did not lead to unusual symptoms. Fauci was speaking during a White House COVID-19 task force virtual briefing. Anthony Fauci, speaking about the grave situation in South Africa, said that the South African countries have not been able to adequately utilize the vaccine doses.
One of the frustrating aspects of this is that the logistic capability of getting vaccines into people's arms in Southern African countries and in other low and middle income countries is really very difficult. And in fact, many of the doses that have been shipped have not been used, and other African countries on the African continent have actually told us not to ship any more vaccine because they have not been able to adequately utilize it.
Well, amid the Omicron variant of COVID-19 frightening the world, Canada has mandated a COVID-19 test for all passengers on their arrival from all nations except the US. Ottawa is also expanding a ban on travelers from Southern Africa to cover 3 more nations, bringing the total to 10. The country has identified 7 people with the new variant. Canadians and permanent residents who have been in 10 countries, even those who are fully vaccinated, must also be tested before entering Canada. As COVID-19 ravages across the world, Greece's lawmakers are expected to mandate COVID-19 vaccination for people above 60 years. The country may impose a fine of 100 euros to the Nigerians who refuse to get vaccinated against COVID-19. The measure is still to be put to a parliamentary vote. Greece's Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis has informed about the decision and said that the fine money will go towards the healthcare system of the country. Greece has over 9,38,000 cases of the disease, with the total death toll standing above 18,000. Well, Brazil has detected 2 cases of the Omicron variant of COVID-19, the first such in Latin America, and Brazilian health regulator Anvisa said that the traveler arriving in Sao Paulo from South Africa and his wife, who had not traveled, both tested positive for the new variant, adding to concerns of global Omicron spread before the recent travel bans went into effect. The health regulator further said that the samples will be sent for a second confirmatory analysis. Brazil was among the world's most affected countries with COVID-19. Brazil has more than 2 crore 20 lakh cases of COVID-19, with the fatalities now crossing 6 lakh 14,000. Well, Germany's federal and regional governments agreed to take action to counter a 4th wave of COVID-19, including stepping up the vaccination campaign and restricting contact, especially for unvaccinated people. Facing a surge in cases over the last few days and warnings from virologists that exponential growth rates would overload hospitals, outgoing Chancellor Angela Merkel held video talks with her successor, Olaf Scholz, and regional leaders. The country has the 3rd highest COVID-19 cases in Europe after Britain and France. Germany has more than 58,81,000 cases of the disease, with the fatalities crossing 1 lakh. In Portugal, a hospital near the capital Lisbon had to be temporarily closed as 2 of its pediatric departments after a healthcare worker, who is also a doctor for a COVID-hit soccer team, tested positive for the Omicron variant of the virus. In a statement, the hospital said all those who were in contact with the infected health worker, a total of 28 people, were now in isolation and being monitored. Portuguese health authorities detected on Monday 13 cases of the Omicron variant, all involving players and staff of top division club Belenenses, one of whose players recently returned from South Africa. Meanwhile, Portugal will open its biggest vaccination center as a surge in COVID-19 infections forced the authorities to impose new restrictions to stop the spread, including strict travel curbs to enter the country by air. Boosting an 87% vaccination drive, one of the world's highest, Portugal has seen its infectious rate and daily cases rise sharply over the past month, although the rate remains below the level seen in countries like Austria or Belgium. The measures continue to come into force from December 1st, and Portugal has over 1,47,000 cases of the disease, with the fatalities now crossing 18,000. Ecuadorian President Guillermo Lasso has announced entry restrictions to travelers due to the new Omicron coronavirus strain. According to the new travel restrictions, any person traveling from or through South Africa, where the Omicron strain was first detected, Botswana, Egypt, Mozambique, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Eswatini and Namibia will not be allowed to enter the country. With the announcement, Ecuador joins other countries across the globe in restricting travel in response to the Omicron strain. Ecuador has more than 5,26,000 cases of COVID-19, with the fatalities now crossing 33,500. Staying with Europe and moving to the Dutch, where Netherlands also detected the Omicron, the new COVID-19 variant, in 14 people. The National Institute for Public Health said that at least 14 people on flights from Johannesburg and Cape Town arrived at Amsterdam's airport on November 26 carrying the new variant. Dutch authorities are also seeking to contact and test some 5,000 other passengers who have travelled from South Africa, Botswana, Swatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, Namibia and Zimbabwe. The Netherlands has already imposed tougher measures to stem the growing surge in cases, and the country's COVID-19 cases stood about 26,43,000 with fatalities crossing 19,000. Well, France has registered about 47,000 new confirmed COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours, the highest one-day tally since April at the height of the third wave of the pandemic. The latest data will push the cumulative total of cases in France since the start of the pandemic to 7.67 million and the 7-day moving average of new infections well over 32,000. During the third wave in the spring, the 7-day average briefly rose above 42,000. On 8th of April, France recorded nearly 85,000 new COVID-19 infections daily. Authorities say the vast majority of COVID-19 infections now in the hospital are those not vaccinated. About 75% of the French population have been fully vaccinated. Meanwhile, France's health regulator on Tuesday backed vaccination for fragile children aged 5 to 11 against COVID-19 if they were at the risk of developing a serious form of the disease or if they lived with vulnerable people. Inoculating children and young people who are unwittingly transmitting COVID-19 to others is considered a critical step towards stemming the pandemic. In Germany and the Netherlands, kids now account for the majority of cases. Well, now a special session of the World Health Assembly kicked off in Geneva amid growing concerns over the latest Omicron COVID-19 variant, where the participants aim to negotiate a new pandemic treaty. Reiterating the strong commitment to the welfare of entire humanity, India has laid emphasis on the need to keep equity, technical assistance and capacity building at the core of new instrument of pandemic preparedness and response for building back better. India assured of its constructive engagement in preparation of the elements and during the negotiations of the instrument. India's permanent representative to the UN, Indramani Pandey, said that the new task is to carefully delineate a draft element of the future instrument. India believes that public health infrastructure is developed in developed countries is underdeveloped and requires international support. He further said that therefore focus should be not on provision of technical support for building capacity of the member states. Well, time now for us to slip into a short breather. Here on the other side, gun trouble continues in the United States of America. That's not all. Taking a look at stock markets on how it's bounced back from the twin assurance. One, the GDP good numbers coming in. The health minister in parliament assuring that the new variant is still not in India. So clearly two things that are helping boost the stock markets. Also a big look at India's quarterfinal tie-up against Belgium in the Junior Hockey World Cup. So lots to still look forward to. Stay tuned with DD India and News on the Hour.
नमस्ते लैंड
मरहबन इलल हिंद जरी इंडिया सलाम इंडिया नमस्ते इंडिया
नमस्कार भारत
नहनु हुनूर इंडिया माँ हिंदी हस्ती हिंदिया सलाम हिंदुस्तान वी आर इंडिया
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back to News on the Hour. Back home, Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a tweet has greeted the people of Nagaland on its Statehood Day. In a tweet, Prime Minister said, and I quote, "On the special occasion of Nagaland's Statehood Day, greetings to the wonderful people of the northeastern state. Naga culture personifies valor and humane values. The people of Nagaland are making rich contributions to India's growth. I pray for Nagaland's progress in the years to come." The United States on Tuesday revoked its designation of the Colombian group, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, as a foreign terrorist organization 5 years after it reached a peace deal with the Colombian government. The two dissident groups that have formed out of FARC La Segunda and FARC-EP or People's Army have been designated as foreign terrorist organization. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said in a statement that the group no longer exists as a unified organization that engages in terrorism, and the decision will allow U.S. government agencies like the Agency for International Development to work on peace implementation in parts of Colombia where demobilized FARC soldiers are located. The U.S. action was welcomed by the Colombian government. The 2016 peace accord ended the FARC's action in the Andean country's decade-old internal armed conflict, which has left millions displaced and more than 260,000 soldiers dead. Well, 14 people died on Tuesday in an Azerbaijani military helicopter crash that went down in the east of the Caucasus country during a training flight. 2 more were wounded as a result of the State Border Service helicopter crash. All the victims were military servicemen. Earlier on Tuesday, according to the country's border service and prosecutor general, a military helicopter belonging to Azerbaijan's State Border Service crashed at Hebat airfield in the Kyrgyz region at approximately 10:40 a.m. while conducting a training flight. An investigation is underway into the accident's cause. Well, in the United States, in tragic news, a 15-year-old boy killed 3 fellow high school students and wounded 8 other people upon opening fire with a semi-automatic handgun at a Michigan high school on Tuesday. One of those wounded was a teacher, and the remaining were students at Oxford High School in Oxford, Michigan, about 40 miles north of Detroit. Oakland County Sheriff Office stated that the suspect was immediately arrested by the police. However, the motive of the shooter was unknown. The suspect divulged nothing to the police and demanded his right to a lawyer upon being advised not to speak by his parents.
About 12:51, we had over 100 911 calls into our dispatch center of an active shooter at the Oxford High School, which is right across the way there. You've all seen it. Deputies responded and within 5 minutes had the suspect in custody. He did not cause any problems. He gave the weapon up. He did have the weapon on him at the time. It was a semi-automatic handgun. He fired multiple shots. We have updated information on the number of deceased. It is 3. We have 3 students, a 16-year-old male, a 14-year-old female, and a 17-year-old female.
Well, U.S. President Joe Biden was told of the shooting by the National Security Advisor Jack Sullivan in advance of a tour and remarks at the Minnesota Technical College. While touring a Minnesota Technical College, President Biden extended condolences to the family enduring the unimaginable grief of losing a loved one. The latest incident in a long series of U.S. school shootings will likely fuel debates about gun control and mental health care, with many states allowing easy access to firearms while mental health disorders frequently go untreated.
To be sworn in, I had to wait. I was informed after the tour. I learned about a school shooting in Michigan. We learned, as we learned the full details, my heart goes out to the families enduring the unimaginable grief of losing a loved one. Apparently, there were somewhere in the order of 9 people shot, and several, or 3, I think, are dead. And the young man, I think, is, as I understand it from staff, is about 15 years old, and he turned himself in, and just said he claimed his right against self-incrimination and handed over his pistol. That's all we know about it, but you've got to know that that whole community has to be just in a state of shock right now. Such a fighter for justice.
Well, Wall Street's main indexes closed lower on Tuesday after Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell signaled that the U.S. Central Bank would consider speeding up its withdrawal of bond purchases. Inflation risk increase, piling pressure onto the market already nervous about the latest COVID-19 variant. The S&P 500 lost 1.9% to end at 4,567 points, while the Nasdaq Composite lost 1.55% to end at 15,537. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 1.86% to close at 34,483. In Iraq's capital, Baghdad, a massive fire broke out in the Al Shorja market, causing huge loss of life and property. The fire occurred in a 2-storied building used as irregular stores. Firefighters rushed to the scene and tried to douse the fire. However, no casualties have been reported so far. On to sports now, taking a look at the Junior Hockey World Cup, where India will take on Belgium in the latest installment of what's turning into an intriguing, one-sided rivalry in international hockey. India will take on Belgium in that Junior Hockey World Cup quarter final. It's going to be an interesting contest between India and Belgium, considering the fact that Belgium senior team has had an upper hand over India, but in the under-21 tournament, India has been able to beat them, just like in the last edition, which India won in 2016. India had managed to beat the Belgium team comfortably, and this time around too, India as hosts are expected to have a good contest, thriving purely on their counter-attacking skills, while Belgium will rely on their defensive structure to help themselves. In the other quarterfinals, Germany will take on Spain, Netherlands will take on Argentina, and France will play Malaysia. All the 4 quarterfinals will be played today, with the semi-finals scheduled to take place on the 3rd of December, with the finals on the 5th of December. So clearly, India there in the quarterfinals, and a mouth-watering contest against Belgium later this evening. Moving on to IPL, a total of 27 players were retained by their respective franchisees ahead of the Indian Premier League mega auction, which will see 10 teams battle it out between themselves to rope in the finest cricketing talents. The usual suspects such as Virat, Rohit, MS Dhoni will remain where they are, but Punjab will see a new skipper in place after KL Rahul decided to be a part of the auctions. Previous editions runner-up Kolkata have shown immense faith on their all-rounder strength as the team retained Andre Russell, Sunil Narayan and Venkatesh Iyer. Well, Indian women cricketers have made a mark in the last one-day rankings of the ICC. Mithali Raj, Smriti Mandhana have been successfully making it to the top 10 of one-day rankings. Indian batswomen Mithali Raj and Smriti Mandhana have made it to the 3rd and 6th place of the ICC Women One-Day Cricket Rankings. Well, viewers who have just joined in, we again tell you about how the air quality has improved in the national capital. There was a slight improvement in the air quality observed in the national capital in Delhi this morning. The air quality index recorded this morning was at 316, which falls in the very poor category. Earlier on Tuesday, the air quality in Delhi remained in the very poor category. Once again, the air quality not looking good, and according to the data by the Central Pollution Control Board, Delhi's air quality was the worst this time in November in the last 7 years. So that's a cause of concern, and the national capital witnessed severe pollution for 11 days, and the air quality was not good for a single day. The 30-day average for the capital's air quality index was 376, and according to the CPCB, this index was 328 in 2020, 312 in 2019, 335 in 2018, 361 in 17, 374 in 2016, and 358. That was the air quality index in 2015. That's the 30-day average of the capital's air quality index. That's roughly around that. The State Committee for Overseas Vietnamese held a workshop under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on November 30th. The workshop was done to collect opinions on drafting project of honoring the Vietnamese language in overseas Vietnamese community. The delegate said that Vietnamese language is a valuable asset which reflects civilization and the identity of Vietnamese people in the international arena. Faculty of Vietnamese Studies said that the language is a pride of the nation and a solid fulcrum for people living and working abroad. Preserving and honoring the Vietnamese language goes hand in hand with promoting Vietnamese cultural identity, as this language is associated with its culture. A new exhibition featuring photographs of the late Princess Diana opened in 3 US cities from December. Princess Diana exhibition accredited access shows a candid view of Diana through the eyes of royal photographers. Anwar Hussain is the longest serving royal photographer and took photos of Diana from when she first became a public figure until her death in 1997. Visitors are given a phone and headphone as they enter so that they can read and hear commentary behind each image and its significance. Well, Pac-Man shaped organisms are capable of self-replication, says US scientists who made the world's first computer-designed living robots. Like the size of poppy seeds, these tiny xenobots are designed by artificial intelligence and built from frog cells. The scientific team from the University of Vermont, Tufts University, and Harvard University Weiss Institute of Biologically Inspired Engineering discovered that the organisms are capable of finding and gathering hundreds of loose frog cells together to assemble xenobot children. The offspring can go on to reproduce themselves. Scientists believe in the future the xenobots could be used in medical applications. Well, lots of news there, especially when it comes to Indian hockey team in action later this evening. You can catch all that action there as India take on Belgium. But remember, in doing all that, do not forget that fight against COVID-19 continues. We are also in that final month of the year, so celebrations are all taking center stage. But be careful, you can't have a trade-off. Just because we are all in that festive mood, we cannot drop our card in the fight against COVID-19. So always follow those 3 simple steps of SMS. Sanitize yourself, mask yourself, social distancing at all times, even if you are vaccinated, even if you are not. If you are not vaccinated, I think it's time to gift yourself and your loved ones a perfect gift by getting yourself a jab. And when you go to get yourself a jab, please get your friends, please get your relatives along, so that more and more people get the jab. Since if more and more people get their jabs, I think this society at large will become a better place, a safe place to live. We do not know the potency of the new variant of the COVID virus that we are seeing, but we surely can hope that if we get the vaccine, you and I stand maybe a better chance to see a better tomorrow. Well, that's it from me and my entire team on News on the Hour. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Take care.